that shit.
Welcome to Trash Talk MMA.
Smile on my face, behind my back, and talk trash.
The #1 podcast for news and insight that matters in the world of mixed martial arts.
I don't want to hear it.
Brought to you live and unfiltered from all four corners of the globe by MMA aficionado Antoine Pelche.
Yo, and welcome to the Trash Talk MMA podcast. I'm your host, Antoine Pelche, and today I have an exceptionally special guest on my show, CEO and owner of One Championship, Victor Cui.
You got it.
Did I pronounce your name?
Victor Cui.
Wow, I got off the first guess.
Yeah.
I meant to ask you before even saying it.
That's all right. I'm not. I get a lot of different variations on it.
So, Victor, I know you're one, if not the busiest person in MMA in Asia. You just had your ONE FC 26 event, your One Championship 26 event in Manila last weekend. Was that a big success?
Yeah, Manila is always a fantastic place to go to. You know, I'm Canadian and I'm proudly Canadian, but my father's Chinese and my mother's Filipino, so we have a lot of close ties whenever we go to the Philippines, and the reception that we have there is always huge. You know, we throw a press conference and you're talking 300, 400 people at a press conference to just talk about nothing, you know. Like when we launch a press conference, it's actually getting a little bit ridiculous because we've got to find bigger and bigger spaces. And the last couple of press conferences that we had, we just held it in a shopping mall, in the middle of the biggest shopping mall there, to accommodate everyone. But it was a great night of action. Filipino fans love One Championship. We've been there for a long time. Our tickets sold faster than they ever have for this last event. So I can see that the momentum for the sport and the momentum in that country is growing quickly. And our last card in Manila, we had Brandon Vera on it. Yep. Which was insane. I didn't think we were going to be able to top that, but we did this time around. I wish the main event went the full distance, but you know, that's the way it goes.
Yeah, that was a bit of a shocking turn of events to see what happened in the Ben Askren main event. Now, your next event is May 22nd in Singapore, headlined by a great title fight against Aoki and Ando.
Koji
Ando. We'll get to that, but right now we are about 24 hours away from the biggest fight to ever happen. Talking about the Pacquiao Mayweather fight. I know you have.
Who?
Who's that?
Yeah,
Who that?
never heard about him.
Who are those guys?
Yeah.
So Maypac is about to go down, and I know you have a relationship with Pacquiao. Would you like to talk about that?
Sure. Manny Pacquiao last year became a shareholder, so he's a co-owner in One Championship. So of course we're supporting him all the way. I think Mayweather is also another great champion. It's going to be a great fight. But you know, they say in the Philippines when Manny fights, the crime rate drops to 0. Because basically everybody just stops, everything, pulls out TVs, drop in the middle of the street, and they're all watching the fight. So it's quite crazy. It's great to have him on board. He's been a huge supporter for us. You know, Rich Franklin, he just had Rich Franklin at his house in LA a couple days ago to hang out at his place, which, as you can imagine, inside of a week before his fight, it's already a frenzy. And the fact that he accommodated us and had Rich Franklin, he's our vice president, out there with him was good. Was exciting.
Yeah, I definitely want to speak about Rich Franklin. I also want to speak about Matt Hume. I know you guys have brought in some real all-star talent to really blow up your organization. What do you think is going to happen tomorrow in this fight?
You know, man, I'm clearly on the side of Pacquiao, and I think that I've never really been a big fan of Mayweather's style of fighting because I found it quite boring. He's a tactician, and he's a great fighter, and he's talented and a defensive genius, but it doesn't make for the most exciting kind of fights and the all-out, you know, kind of brawl that I think most people like to see. I think tomorrow, I think it's a tough fight for either one. I don't think it's nearly as clear-cut as people think.
What are the betting odds? Mayweather?
Actually, I don't know. Oh, you mean for me?
Yeah, Mayweather's probably.
I'm gonna guess that he's probably the favorite. Yeah, but he's got a longer reach, and so a little stronger. Never lost. Yeah. So, but this is the thing, and you put two old lions together like that, you never know how it's gonna go, right? They both have enough information to know what each other's game and what each other can bring to the table.
Now, we were talking about this before we started recording. Being here that we're in Singapore right now, we're going to be watching this fight at noon tomorrow.
Yeah. Starting 9 a.m. I think.
How do you like to? What do you do when there's a big fight on that's based in North America and that starts at this time of day? Me living on the West Coast, when I used to be in LA or Vancouver, I'd always have my buddies over. We'd fire up the barbecue, and the prelims for UFC would start at 4 in the afternoon. By 7 o'clock, everybody's already got a good buzz on. We're having some food, and it gets to be pretty rowdy, and because it's like a Saturday night event.
Yeah.
Since I've been out here in in Thailand and in Singapore, there's all these events that occur in the mornings on Sunday. It just feels awkward.
Yeah.
I mean, did you ever live on the West Coast of the States?
Edmonton, not so.
Yeah, not quite West Coast.
Not quite West Coast, but one time zone away. But that's the whole thing with sports in Asia. What people don't realize is that, and for the last 3 decades, Asia has imported sports from the West and from Europe and North America, and we've imported our heroes, our Tiger Woods, our Roger Federers, our Beckhams, our Messi, like all these heroes, because rightly so, they're the best athletes in the world out there.
Yep.
But it also has meant that we've engaged and watched sports on those time zones. You're watching EPL, as you know, here in Asia, football is gigantic, as in soccer is gigantic, and you watch that on a Wednesday morning if you're watching Champions League at 3 a.m. or EPL on a 2 a.m. on a Saturday. Like you said, primetime sports, NBA is going to be on a Sunday morning at 7 a.m. So
it's hard, man.
Those are the time zones that if you want to follow sports, and it's maybe a part of the reason why the mass following of sports other than football in Asia is at its infancy still.
Yep.
One Championship, when we launched, we've got a 90% market share in Asia. We're broadcast. We have a 10-year deal with Fox that puts us in 22 countries across the region. We're broadcast globally to 70 countries, 1 billion viewers. And in Asia, we are prime time on a Friday night when we hold our fights, which means on a Friday night, when you're watching our event, when you're watching the Manila event, if you go out to a bar, if you're in a bar, what's a bar going to put on Friday night? They're going to put on fights, and they're going to put on live fights. And we're on there, 8:30 to 11:30. And it's why our ratings have been phenomenal. We, in some of our key markets, we are outrating every other major sport. F1, tennis, football is still live football in Asia is still top of the pile no matter what. But when you look at, I think we had a show in China. I'll give you an example. We aired One Championship in China on the #1 broadcaster there, CCTV5. It's the biggest channel in all of China. It's the only channel. It's government owned. Not the only channel. The largest one. Anyway, CCTV5. We aired on there as a post-produced show, delayed show.
Crazy.
About 2 weeks after our event, and our show outrated the NBA live broadcast. Like the interest in the sport is just, we're at an early days. I mean, I'm not going to mislead you or say that our ratings are phenomenal, but they're really strong, and we're already beating these established sports that are already there. And I think that just goes to show how hungry Asians are for something that they can call their own. And what is more Asian than martial arts?
Yeah, well, this is funny because this allows me to seg into something else I want to talk about, because typically major Asian organizations such as Pride, Dream, or Sengoku, they were Japanese, and they focused heavily around the Japanese culture and their fighters. So I mean, although one is situated in Singapore, it feels very universal, as if it's not trying to lock itself into one culture or a set of fighters. This also seems to be congruent with the name of the brand of One. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, people often talk about Pride and the Pride Days and all that kind of stuff, but what people don't realize, it was huge in Japan, but it was a very distinctly Japanese product.
Yeah.
Even if you watch their videos or the vignettes, it's Japanese humor, and it's uniquely
Absolutely.
Japanese.
Even what they do with Boss Root, or all the little vignettes in between.
That's right.
For sure.
I mean,
for sure.
The Japanese guys get it, but nobody else in Asia gets it, and definitely not the rest of the world. But that's at that time period. When you were looking at the 80s and in the 70s and the 80s, when people said Asia, what they really meant was Japan. in the 70s and 80s. That's all they knew. If I asked you, remember in the 80s, there's no Google, there's no, and we were talking about Asia. You mean, oh yeah, in Tokyo, Japan? Ask somebody where is Singapore in 1980, where is Malaysia? They couldn't tell you. They would have never even heard that name, let alone tier 2 cities in China, Taiwan, Laos, Cambodia. No, Asia was Japan. Now look at where we are today. People, Singapore is on the map. Hong Kong is, another financial headquarters. People know Beijing, Shanghai, Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, Phuket. You just came from Phuket.
Yep.
And so those days of that sport, I think, were as a distinctly Japanese product was in that period. Where we are now with one is we're a global property. And we are Asia's largest sports media property. In the history of sports in Asia, there is not a larger startup sports media company than us, and that has grown as fast as we have. And I think you're right in talking about like the name of the company. The reason why
I'd love to talk about the name change too. If you
Sure,
don't mind.
sure. I mean, the reason why I picked the name One is because I wanted a name that transcended the language barrier. People forget that in Asia, most people don't speak English. There's a lot of countries that do speak English, but it's not the first language for most
Singapore's
people.
fantastic for that, by the way.
It is. It is. Yeah, easy to get around. Singapore is Asia light.
Asia Light.
But if you don't speak English, and you're seeing a company that's a bunch of abbreviations, that's 1, 2, 3 or ABC or KFC, like nobody knows.
Yep.
Nobody knows what that is, and they definitely don't understand it. But if you don't speak English, you understand what one means. It means the best, number one, top, the champion. Everybody knows what the word one is.
And what's interesting about that in the context of mixed martial arts and in light of this huge boxing fight that's coming up as well is that everybody would like to see just one promotion. It seems like that's always been something that's been very difficult to achieve.
Yeah.
But it seems like mixed martial arts compared to boxing has done a great job at least limiting the amount of major promotions and major titles that exist.
I don't know if we've done a good job of. I don't think. To me, I don't look at it as limiting. The more organizations that there are, and the more fights that there are, and greater opportunities for fighters to come up the ranks and come up into one championship, I think the better it is for the sport. It means more marketing dollars are spent, a fan base is growing, all those kind of things. But there is only certain organizations that have the ability to really produce a world-class product.
Yeah.
You have to have a world-class team. You have to have world-class management. You have to understand multiple aspects of the sport, not just competition or not just the fighter mentality or just the official side. To make a global sports properties is a complex piece, and not everybody has the background for that.
Now you do. You've been involved with the sports media industry for 15 years before you started one, correct?
Well, coming on to 20 years now, I think, actually.
If you add on the years you've been. So what are some of the qualities that you developed, some of the relationships that you developed during those 15 years that has allowed one to blossom so quickly and effectively?
I have a phenomenal team. That's what I would say. First and foremost, I have the best people in the industry. Now you're talking about the guys that work at One Championship are now, without a doubt, the most experienced and the best people in this industry in Asia, in the world, because we've done events all across the region. We've done multiple events in multiple countries, and every country that you go to is a different culture, different government, different religion, different rules, different set of operations of how to do the business. And being able to do that and have that knowledge base is significant. And to your question about what some of the things that has helped me is, without a doubt, my time at ESPN, based out here in Asia, was a huge learning curve and an opportunity for me, because in that capacity, I held and executed events for television all across Asia, in almost every country in Asia. So having relationships from the ground up, from a supplier to the military to the Minister of Youth and Sports,
Crazy.
I had all of those in place when we launched, by the time we launched the company. So that side of the event execution for us was actually the easier piece of the equation. And then because all I'd done was sports media, and been so fortunate in my career that I've worked with the biggest organizations in the world that are multi-billion-dollar sport properties that showcase the best of the best. The Olympics, World Championships, PGA Tour. These are guys that know what they're doing and how to deliver a world-class standard. And then ESPN.
They set the standard.
Yeah, they set the standard, exactly.
Set the standard.
So it really allowed me to take that experience and apply it to one championship, saying, okay, this is the standard that we've got, and this is what we're going, and this is how we're going to deliver content. 3.5 years ago when we launched, we were already shooting in HD. If for people that don't live in Asia, they don't realize that HD is still a new thing. HD is the standard in North America.
Anything less than that, my skin starts to crawl.
Yeah. Most countries you go, 3.5 years ago in Asia, most countries you went to don't even have an HD camera. Like there's no HD anywhere. Jeez. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're thinking about it, they're talking about it. But we were shooting on HD already from our very first event, so that our entire archives was built on that. So there's technology lag in the region.
But again, it allows you to set the standard, right?
Set the standard, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So speaking of, your world-class organization, the people working for you, you have two members of your team that I'd love to, delve on a little bit. First of all, Matt Hume, the VP of Operations, and he's your matchmaker as well, correct?
That's right.
So how did, Matt Hume has a huge history working with Pride and Dream.
Yeah.
As he was there at the head of their officials.
Yeah.
What's your connection? What's your relationship with Matt?
Matt's the best of the best. I mean, he's a legend. There's not a single. If you are a serious fighter, you know who Matt is. I mean, he's built and made champions, and he has respect in the cage and outside of the cage. Being a former fighter, being an official, he understands the safety. He understands all the things that are needed for success for a world-class organization. He came out to Asia to do a seminar at Evolve. Is when I first met him.
Awesome.
And that's how we connected. And with one championship with our entire team, I have a very simple philosophy of who I like to work with and who I hire. And it's I only want to work with the best. That's it. If you are the best at what you do, if you are in that top 1%, if you are driven to improve yourself and to be the very best that you can and learn and continually grow, you're somebody I want to be around, because that's what I want. I want people to push me. I want people to push themselves. I want to be able to push people. And I believe when you bring great people together who want that growth, you're going to produce great things. It's no different than, smokers find other smokers, right? Like finds like. If you
birds of a feather, right?
That's right, exactly.
Yeah.
And
it's hard. It's hard to find great people.
It's very hard.
I think I'm the same as you. I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I have high standards for myself, and I'm very demanding of the people that I work with. And it's not always easy to find the people that are able to identify and relate to the vision that you have.
Sure, that's why they're the top 1%. The 1% are hard to find. If you're looking for the average, they're everywhere.
Yeah, a little too much actually, right? So and Matt's also the head trainer at AMC Pancration. Demetrius Johnson and your champion, Bibiano Fernandez.
Yeah, that's right. So Matt's been a huge asset for the organization. And what's great about him is he knows how to make exciting matchups for the organization, which is difficult because we have a lot of young fighters that are up and coming, and you want to give them the right platform and the right opportunity to expand themselves and grow. But he's also been a big part of the reason why we are so efficient in setting the highest standards in everything we do on the competition side, because he's been able to build that for us. We work closely with every gym, with every fighters, and the standards that we have are bar none to anyone else.
Excellent. So getting back to the matchmaking, one thing I wanted to talk to you about as well is, for longtime fans of MMA, we've had limited exposure to a large part of the one roster. How does the matchmaking take into account Western fans, or does it even attempt to do so at all?
Well,
are you trying to go after the North American and European fans, or is it more of a philosophy of you're just going to make it your own unique, compelling product, and that in itself will have fans gravitate towards it?
What I believe is showcasing to the world the best athletes in the world on one championship, and particularly giving an opportunity for some of the best up-and-coming Asian talent that's out here. When I think the reason why people are interested in one championship all around the world is because Asia is the home of martial arts. And when you say to somebody in Brazil, Canada, France, Germany, Russia, hey, you want to see where the next Bruce Lee is? He's coming out of Asia. People are like, whoa, that makes a lot of sense to me. You mean the next Bruce Lee's coming out of one championship? Let me take a look at that, right? No one's saying, nobody ever says martial arts, oh, that's Australia. Or martial arts, that's Canada. No, nobody says that. It's synonymous with Asia.
Yeah, the heritage there just doesn't exist.
And there are so many talented fighters here because the difference about this sport compared to any other sport for Asians is that we have a fantastic foundation in it already. If I were to tell you, oh, the next Wayne Gretzky is coming out of Singapore, you'd be like, well, what? That doesn't make any sense. Do they even have a skating rink?
It's hard to find ice for my drink, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Right.
Let alone skate on.
Or if I were to tell you the next tennis champion is coming out of Malaysia, it's just like, well, that doesn't make any sense. But in Asia, everyone's been doing martial arts. So if you want to take a Lumpini world champion in Muay Thai who's been fighting since he was 5 years old and has a professional record of 110 professional fights with 98 KOs or whatever insane record he might have, and then you give him the ability to take his to learn a ground game and to study jiu-jitsu, man, you're talking about developing a whole new warrior that already has a foundation that is above and beyond anybody else that's an MMA fighter. Now, of course, can he learn that transition? Can he get the ground game? That's a whole different thing.
Yep.
But the fact is, he has this solid foundation of martial arts already. I don't care what your weakness is.
And the cultural support of where this is what they do.
Yeah.
You know, like when you go, you spend time in Thailand, you see 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds throwing head kicks.
Yeah.
Like, this is what they do.
Yeah.
And imagine if we can educate them into the viability of being a mixed martial artist and not just a Muay Thai fighter. And if they can start learning those skills and spending time in the gym at the age of 3, within 3 to 5 years, you're probably going to get some incredible fighters coming out of just Thailand.
And that's what you see. And I think in the next 5 years, I think the majority of gyms in Asia will basically be MMA gyms. Because nobody wants to just go to a pure boxing gym anymore or a Muay Thai gym. They want to do Muay Thai on Monday, boxing on Tuesday, and wrestling on Wednesday, and so on and so on.
And they can't make a living at it. They can't make a solid living. The guys making a living in Muay Thai, they're fighting 3 or 4 times a month, and they're smashed to pieces by the age of 25. You know, the shelf life there is just tremendously low.
Sure.
And the wear and tear. I mean, it just fascinates me. The grueling pace that these guys put themselves through. How they just take fights against anyone, anywhere, anytime. They don't even know who they're fighting when they show up a lot of the times.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy compared to a mixed martial artist who fights, 2 times a year now?
Yeah.
Some of these big guys, Cain Velasquez has fought once a year for the last 3 years. Yeah. He's a champ. You know, it's a different routine.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about Rich Franklin.
Sure.
Actually had
that's a man at a whole different level himself.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of meeting Rich Franklin at THQ when I was working on UFC 2009. Had a really nice talk with him. He just seems like such a level-headed guy, and that he's just neck deep in this sport as well. Why did you get Rich involved with one?
There's a reason why Rich Franklin is a legend, because he is not only a very, very talented athlete, he's incredibly smart and a phenomenal man, a great asset to the company in terms of our media, our public relations, our strategy, and all the areas that we can grow. And I also met him when he came to Singapore, and he spoke at a couple years ago. I held a martial arts summit in Asia, the first ever summit in the world, and the largest in Asia. We had about 500 people come together, had the brother and sister of Bruce Lee here, sponsors, media, every major player in the world of MMA. If you owned a gym, if you were an athlete, if you were anyone that was in that world, we brought them together for the one summit at that time, and flew everyone in and hosted them at Marina Bay Sands for a 3-day conference out here. And Rich Franklin was one of the guest speakers to talk about the life of an athlete and the opportunities and his career and what he did and his thoughts of his life after that. We met and got along really well, and offered him an opportunity to come on board as vice president.
That's very cool. So what are some of the results that you're expecting Rich Franklin's involvement to bear fruit for one?
Oh, it already has. He's been a huge asset for the company in terms of even just our media appearances, to lessen my workload. I mean, I'm traveling 5 days of the week, all across the region. You know, we have 24 events on our calendar this year. We're in every major country across Asia, so I'm just perpetually on the road, and he does a lot to ease that pressure on the public relations side of things. He's also a big asset on our strategies. He leads new areas of business development for us that we're exploring.
Excellent. Now, one sport's an impressive roster of champions. I mean, you have Shinya Aoki, legend, Bibiano Fernandez, he's whooping ass all the time. You got Ben Askren, undefeated. You also have a bunch of big Western names like Brandon Vera, James McSweeney, Roger Huerta, and then you have a plethora of local Asian fighters. When one signs fighters, whether they're rising or veteran, what are some of the qualities you're looking for, and how do they need to fit within the philosophy of the organization and the direction it's trying to go in? What sort of fighters are you looking for?
Well, first of all, we're looking out for the best in each country. Now, of course, the talent level in each country varies depending on their exposure to MMA or where they are as a martial art. You know, we talked about Thailand as an example. Fantastic martial artists in Muay Thai, but at the early days of becoming MMA fighters. Well, this 22nd of May, a Lumpini World Champion, Ku Rong, is fighting for our inaugural strawweight World Championship in Singapore. So that fight is a watershed moment for Muay Thai and for Thailand, where you're going to see a Muay Thai world champion competing in essentially a dual sport athlete. That kind of stuff is very exciting. One of the focuses that we also look at is the opportunity to build local heroes and tell those stories around the world. So in each country, you know, going back to my earlier point about importing Western sports, in Asia, we're so hungry for Asian heroes. We don't have any sport heroes that we can call our own. We're so hungry for Asian heroes that Jeremy Lin comes here, and he's as American as you can be. He barely speaks Mandarin, and China and Taiwan, he's like ours, he's ours. Tiger Woods is 1/30th Thai, but he goes to Thailand, and you know, everyone, something like that. I don't know. You know, his mother is part Thai or something.
Okay.
Yeah, and people are like, oh, he's Thai. We are just dying for heroes because the world of sports is still new in Asia as a career. There are, of course, pockets of huge development, cricket in China, or baseball in Japan, which are fully developed nations, but I'm talking in general right across the region. Now, being able to deliver these local heroes is a fantastic story. I'll give you an example. In Malaysia, we have a young up-and-coming athlete. Her name is Ann Osman. She is, I think her record is 3-1 right now, so a very, very young pro athlete. And she's Muslim, female, articulate, athletic, talented fighter, great with media, and she has been the highest covered Malaysian athlete in the last 2 years. She was on the front page of New York Times, a 2-page spread in Time magazine. She just did a 45-minute feature show on her on Al Jazeera that went global. You know, like just phenomenal coverage. And why? For a fighter who's, you know, at the early days of her career, is because she's inspirational. She's inspirational to Asian women, to Asians as a whole, to Malaysians, to Muslim people, and they have a chance to see their local hero on a world stage of one championship broadcast to 1 billion viewers. This is what they've been dreaming of their whole life. If you were a martial artist in Asia, you've been doing Taekwondo for the last 20 years. You're a 6th Dan Taekwondo black belt. You've won gold medals at the Asian Games, gold medals at the SEA Games, gold medals here, whatever competition. When you finish that competition, you take your gold medals, you go back home, and you go to your job at whatever you do. And that's it. There's nothing you can do. One championship gives these guys this opportunity to be not only in front of an entire 20,000-seater stadium, but broadcast globally to showcase what they've built their life around. It's what they dream of. It's like if you and I are concert pianists and all we've ever done for the last 30 years is practice piano and all we've ever played in our house, you dream of being on a stage.
Having that outlet. Outlet for the recognition.
That's right. You know. And now, these athletes that have been in each one of the countries, have this opportunity with One Championship to showcase their talent and bring their legions of fans that have supported them in that particular sport, and it's huge. I'll give you another example. We have a fighter who is Malaysia's Silat champion. Silat is the national sport for Malaysia. It's like the competitive version of it is a derivative of Taekwondo and judo throws. It's kind of a mix, traditional sport, but participation rates in Malaysia, it's the national sport for them, right?
Yep.
Culturally, government supported, government funded, all that kind of stuff, and millions of Silat practitioners in that country. Well, the national champion in Malaysia, a guy called AJ is one of our fighters. Well, when he fought on the card, he can sell 5,000 tickets himself, because for the first time in the history of Silat, it's going to be showcased on a global broadcast with their champion representing their sport, representing their nation. And you have that, and you've got these internation rivalries that we can play on and showcase that. So go back to the question of who do we sign?
It was an awesome answer, man.
Who do we look at?
I'm finding this fascinating.
I want to showcase these phenomenal talents in Asia that are up and coming and the best in each country. Are they the best in the world yet? Not yet. Do they have the ability to be, or potentially? Of course they can. Yep. But in the meantime, they ignite the nationalistic fervor. They ignite the pride in each one of these countries to showcase Asian martial arts as a whole to the rest of the world. We continually look for top fighters from everywhere in the world who want to commit to One Championship, who want to be a part of what this is and of what we're doing. It's not easy if you're an athlete and you live in a different time zone, you live in North America, to fly out here, it's a challenge.
Yep.
Well, I know that. So you have to have a different level of commitment of what you want to do.
So, I mean, I think that's a really cool answer that you gave, that, and as a Westerner, you really just brought it to my awareness of how there aren't these star hero sports idols. And that brings us to, a really relevant piece of news right now, like what's happened with Jon Jones in the United States. Obviously, in the United States, sports heroes are put on a massive pedestal. How do you feel about what's happened with Jon Jones? How do you feel that he's disrespected the fans? What do you think about this? This guy who's at the top of his game, literally virtually an undefeated champion who had everything ahead of him and has gone on to, to a series of PR and legal blunders. He's stripped of the title, suspended indefinitely. How do you feel about that, based on, just as a counterpoint to what you just described about how people here are just starving to just even have an outlet and to be positive, to be inspirational, to be a role model?
Yeah. Well, I can't speak to him in his particular case. I believe that in One Championship, what we look for in our fighters, in our team, is people that are of the highest level of integrity. We look for good people. I want to be around, whether you're a fighter or an official or media or supplier, I want to be around people that believe in what we're doing, believe in wanting to take martial arts to another level and grow the sport in Asia to levels it's never seen before. This is the first time, imagine this, in Asia, martial arts has been here for over 5,000 years. This is the first time that martial arts has been commercialized at a world-class level, like we are doing with One Championship, with levels of production, levels of professionalism, showcasing all that and taking it to another level. And those are the people that believe in that vision that I want to be around and where we want to go. I think what's quite different about martial arts in Asia is that the fighters that we have on our roster most of them have already dedicated their life to martial arts. You're not talking about somebody who woke up at 23 years old and decided, I'm going to be an MMA fighter, and went to a gym.
No.
And then started training, which, you get
anchored
that.
in their childhood.
They've been doing it for 15, 20 years. So if you are a martial artist who's been practicing whatever martial art for 15 years, you are a leader in the community. You have tens of thousands of students. You have schools and gyms that all look up to you as an inspirational leader. And you now represent all these people in the community. You're a pillar of the community, and now you're fighting as a professional fighter in MMA. And it's one of the reasons why I love our athletes, because they have such a high level of respect for each other, because the spirit of martial arts of Asia, I think, runs much stronger in our organization, and distinctly so with our fighters. We can't get these guys to trash talk each other. You know, we try. It'd be great as a promoter to get all that kind of stuff, but sometimes
not even Rob Lucida.
Well, Rob Lucida is Australian.
There's an exception. Yeah, exactly, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But generally,
I had him on the show. It's awesome.
You know, you try and get some guys to trash talk, and the most thing they'll say is, "Well, I've trained harder than this other guy, so I think I can beat him."
Yeah, right? I'm better than him at everything.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's interesting because you talked about, okay, there's obviously a plethora of incredible talent here that you're tapping into, and then you said just before that it's not easy to perhaps encourage fighters from North America because of the time zone changes, the travel, etc. What would you say to fighters who are looking for employment opportunities outside of North American promotions? What does ONE FC offer that is truly unique?
Well, actually,
to the fighter.
You know, we have the opposite problem. I get over 1,000 emails a week from fighters that we have too many people that want to fight on our roster. I can't even open up my Facebook email. It's ridiculous. Whether you're a fighter from Brazil, Canada, America, Russia, Germany, France, which we're inundated with these. So it's not a shortage of choice and people that want to come out here because they see where the opportunity is and they see where we can grow, and how they can build a fan base of tens of millions out here. Yeah. For me, when I talk about guys that are coming out here, it's more that anybody can come out for a fight, right? And if that's what you want. But I want to bring guys out here that really understand and want to build a fan base outside of America. Understand that the way we build a fan base out here is at the early stages, and that they will also have to work hard at it and commit to what we're doing and are excited about that. And we've got a ton of fighters that are great examples. Brandon Vera comes out here. Why? When you walk in the Philippines with him, I was just there last weekend. I mean, we're trying to get from the entrance of the hotel to our rooms. We had to get the police security to come out.
The mob.
Yeah, I mean, it was insane.
Yeah.
So, and guys that come out here and say, I'm going to do my last 4 weeks of my fight camp in Phuket or in somewhere Singapore.
Yeah.
You know, to me that means okay. These guys are committed. They want to be out here.
For sure. So, who are some of the rising stars? Who are some of the guys that are part of your organization now that you really feel have the potential to blow up on an international level? There's too many that I can think of. You know, we've got a lot of really great stories, not only of Asian fighters but global fighters. I talked about Ann Osman as a mentor for female fighters and that opportunity. There are on the local scale. You know, we've got. Guys like Peter Davis in Malaysia, who has been, he's a model, a professional actor, professional fighter, and he's an inspiration in Malaysia and a very talented fighter, one of the top fighters there. You got fighters here in Singapore like Eddie Ng. Eddie Ng, who's actually from Hong Kong and training out here in Singapore. He's got a massive fan following. One of our major partners is Baroka, which is a health supplement drink, and they've signed him up as their ambassador. So we've got a ton of these guys in every single country that we go to. Even if you look at our, we already talked about our existing champions, Askren and Naoki and Bibiano, and let's look at Jadamba, our Mongolian champion. Well, he is our first time champion. He won in Dubai, the title. Well, Jadamba is the first ever Mongolian world champion in any sport for Mongolia. And he's a hero. He's a hero of Mongolia. I've had a meeting with some government ministers from Mongolia who flew down to Singapore to meet up with me to tell me what a huge hero he is, because he was an orphan as a kid. And in Mongolia, they say to be a man you have to do three things. It's oddly similar to Alberta, but you have to have three. You gotta be able to fight, chug beer,
watch hockey.
Watch hockey.
You gotta be able to fight, shoot arrows, and ride a horse. Those are the 3 skill sets to be a man in Mongolia. Yeah. And so him as a world champion wrestler is a huge story for them, and a huge inspiration of somebody that can go from being an orphan to a global hero and a world champion. Now, to me, that's a great story of uniqueness of our fighters in the region and what they can do. And there's a ton of stories like that. I'll digress for a second. I'll tell you a story about one of the Malaysian champions that fought on our card called Saiful American. He's Malaysian, and he fought against a Cambodian fighter. They had first fought before in Muay Thai, and the Malaysian Saiful lost. They've met again in our cage in Malaysia on Saiful's home turf in Malaysia for a rematch against the Cambodian, and Saiful won. He won the match. After the fight, he found out that the Cambodian, a week before, his entire house had burnt down. He lost everything. He'd lost everything. His house, his family's house had burnt down.
And he still fought.
And he still fought. And he fought and he lost. Saiful took...
Probably had a few things on his mind.
Yeah, right.
Like life.
But it was a great fight. It was a phenomenal fight.
It's amazing.
Saiful took his entire winnings, his entire prize purse, put it in an envelope, and said, "To my brother in martial arts, I heard about your bad luck." And gave him his prize purse. Oh. And he didn't tell anybody. He didn't do it in front of the media.
Yeah.
He didn't tell me. It was because his wife is the one who told me about it. He just did it quietly, because that's the spirit of martial arts that these guys share, of what they've gone through. They didn't just decide yesterday to be a martial artist or to be an MMA fighter. They dedicated their life to this, and their brotherhoods that they have in the sport, they're rising together.
That's a pretty cool story, man. And that's pretty cool that it finally becomes public here. That's very, very inspirational. It's very cool. All right, let's get back to your next event.
All right.
On about May 22nd. I'm seeing the posters all over the city. One Championship 27, Aoki defending his title against Ando.
Yeah. Koji the Commander. It's a crazy fight. I'm really, really looking forward to this fight because I think it's going to be the toughest challenge of Shinya's career. Koji he is a fierce competitor, and he's rightfully so our top contender on this. Shinya he's a beast.
No introduction necessary.
Yeah, we don't need to give him his accolades, but I think this is really going to be the toughest fight of his career.
Really?
Yeah.
So what threats do you feel Ando poses that Aoki would be unfamiliar with, or could be susceptible to?
I think we've seen in the past with Aoki's fights that a flurry of activity of punches, if he throws him a little bit off his game and Shinya doesn't get to settle down, and he could get knocked out. He could get tapped on, and get tapped on the chin, and that's the end of the game. And Koji has that ability. He has that explosiveness and that firepower. And I don't think when I talk to him, he doesn't have a fear of Aoki. Other fighters are walking to that cage, and the aura of Aoki precedes them.
Fedor style.
Yeah, he doesn't. He's here. He knows what business he's got to do, and he's excited about it. He's been begging for this opportunity for a while, and he's ready to do it.
Now, another fight I'm looking forward to on there is Rob Lasita against Timofey Nastyukhin. Is that how you pronounce his name?
Nastyukhin, yeah.
Nastyukhin.
Yeah.
Sounds like a street fighter.
Yeah,
Nastyukhin. What do you think is going to go down there? Rob's got his back to the wall. 2 losses. Timofey's been clobbering guys. I believe he hasn't lost in 5 years. He's on an 8-fight winning streak, a whole bunch of gnarly stoppages. It sounds like that one could be has fight of the night written all over it.
It does. This is the kind of matchup that fans love to see. The reason why Rob Lasita is a fan favorite is because he brings it. He just brings it, and his fight style is prone to getting knocked out or be knocked out. That's what he does, right? And every last fights were about that. When he fought Eric Kelly in Taiwan, that fight was a war.
Yep.
He was on top of him. He had the lead, and Eric Kelly he was losing. He pulled it out. He won by rear naked choke, and It was a great fight. That was where the first time that I awarded the Warriors bonus to a fighter. I launched a bonus on that fight. That night we had 0 decisions. Everything was stoppage. Yeah, a $50,000 bonus to as many fighters that deserved it, that exemplified the spirit of being a one warrior. Inside the cage, outside of the cage, exciting fight for the fans, exciting and respectful opponent. Just all these elements of being a real martial artist and warrior. And I awarded it that night to Eric Kelly. It was a really exciting fight. So I think this upcoming fight with Lucida and Timofey is going to be great. They both have the same styles, and I think if you blink, you're going to miss a knockout for sure on this one.
Do you think this is ONE's biggest card so far?
Whenever we come to Singapore, we always look to do a really big card because we're headquartered here. We're backed by the Singapore government. Singapore government only supports 2 sports. The other one is F1, and we're the second one.
Okay.
So that's why we're headquartered here. And we also just brought on board a ton of huge new blue chip sponsors. Canon, Casio, Disney, Marvel. We're launching Avengers and Star Wars and all their movies for them across the region. Kawasaki is another one of our sponsors. Did I say Casio? LG.
Yep. You said Canon, I think.
And Canon.
Yep.
Just like all these blue chip sponsors they're just growing with the sport and loving ONE Championship, and they're excited about what we're doing in Singapore. So we try and do an exciting fight.
Now there was rumors, when ONE scaled its name back to ONE Championship, there was rumors that to bring on some sponsors that the word fighting or fight in the name could have been an issue. Can you clarify if that was part of the decision at all to change the name?
Not at all. It's not that was an issue. The reason why I did it was, to me, it's a natural evolution of it. I want to showcase and make this the biggest sport in all of Asia and as mainstream as any other sport that there is out there. So why not use the words to showcase what the sport is? I believe it is about the spirit of ONE, of martial arts, of being the best, of being a championship, of doing that's what I think martial arts is about. Of course, it's a combat sport, but to me, that's not the essence of what we're doing and why people love it. People love the sport because they're seeing the best athletes that have dedicated their life to compete and showing what they can. And they're MMA artists, MMA athletes are some of the most talented athletes in the world. Their strength, flexibility, agility, speed, power, all those.
Not to mention they're getting hit while they're doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Which to me makes them the greatest athletes walking the face of the earth.
Yeah.
I mean, there's because the danger that they're facing.
Yeah.
While they also have the output that they're creating.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
So with this event playing out in Singapore, and as you were saying, it's the headquarters, you guys always try to put on big shows. Are you trying to perhaps make Singapore like the Las Vegas of Asian martial arts centers?
We try and bring the excitement of the goosebumps, the hair on your arms rising Las Vegas experience to every city that we go to. The reason why ONE Championship is selling out 20,000 seater venues wherever we go, it's not just a fight night. It is the night of a sport entertainment of the year that you have to go to if you're in that city, which means every celebrity, every DJ, every local radio host, every who's who needs to be there and walk down. Like if you come to our event, if you're here still on 22nd of May, we have a red carpet. And it's like Academy Awards, and the paparazzi are there, and everyone
so you guys are just blowing it up.
Yeah, they're dressed up. People come dressed up to our events, and they look beautiful sitting cage side, and because they're coming out for a night. Our VIP experience that we have, which is held in the Prime Minister's Hospitality Suite, that ticket is a $688 ticket, and it's VIP free, F&B, and there's a DJ, and it's a lounge, and you get a free car ride home. But it's ultra VIP kind of experience, and that's our hottest selling ticket. But we also have all the way up to the nosebleeds. $35, $40 tickets. So we have a big range of people that come out.
Okay. Well, this is cool, Victor. There's 2 things I didn't know about you before today. First of all, I didn't know you were a Canadian, fellow Canadian. And I didn't know both you and your wife were black belts in Taekwondo.
Oh, yeah. My wife kicks my ass, not because she's a black belt. But
So I guess your kids, you keep them in line.
Yeah.
Or she keeps them in line.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, my kids are going to start studying jiu-jitsu. And Matt Hume regularly gives me a ton of tips to train kids with games. All the games that we play in our house are all revolving around martial arts.
Well, I was going to say, obviously, you know, what place does martial arts hold for you and your family? I mean, obviously, this is a pillar of your existence.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, huge. I'm lucky that my wife loves the sport, is a huge supporter of it. You know, she's got her own career, but my kids love it. They love martial arts, and I grew up with martial arts myself in my life. I was born in Edmonton, but I grew up in Africa, and I lived in Africa until I was
Crazy. Didn't know that
14 years old. And
Whereabouts in Africa?
in Ghana, West Africa.
Okay.
And or 13 years old, I can't remember now. But my father built a boxing ring in our backyard, and I sparred every day for as long as I could remember with my dad and sometimes with my mom. So it was just regularly what we did. And when you have a boxing ring in your backyard,
We had a skateboard ramp.
yeah, yeah, that's
And my dad hated that. There's enough injuries just with that, right?
yeah. But I mean, every kid on the block wants to come by and you hang out and you're just fooling around, and it's kind of like when you watch kids do Muay Thai in Thailand, they engage and they play. I'll use the word play Muay Thai, the way we would play hockey.
Yep.
You know, to some people, to think, oh, go stand between the pipes and be goalie and block a ball, a street hockey ball or a puck. That's just like, oh my God, that's so scary. That's going to be insane.
If you get hit with those orange
Orange
plastic balls,
when
especially
when they freeze up in the winter.
Oh, it's just
right?
brutal.
But we'd go do it.
Yeah.
You could, it's like, okay, let's go play.
You strap a pillow to your chest, right?
Yeah, and that's because we're not filled with the fear of it because you grew up playing it, and that's the same thing with martial arts with most Asians. They just grow up kicking and punching, and my house was so skewed to martial arts, and then I remember this one time, when I was maybe 16 years old, and I was sitting in my living room in Edmonton, watching TV and playing with my butterfly knife. And I was trying to do this new move with the butterfly knife where you throw it in the air and it opens in the air, and then you catch it. Well, you can't, as you're practicing it, sometimes it's not right, so you got to let it drop, right? So I'm doing this, and my 6-year-old brother is next to me. We're watching TV, and I'm throwing a knife in the air and trying to catch it. And when my mom walks in and she sees me doing this, she's watching me. She's watching me do this. She looks at me and she says, "I'm telling you, if you ruin the carpet, you are in big trouble."
Yeah, my mother would have said, if you cut off your knife, you've cut off your foot with that knife, don't come running to me.
Yeah, it's not about. But her concern was not about the safety. Forget the fact that your teenage boy's throwing a knife in the air and trying to catch it. She's like, if you ruin the carpet, you're in trouble, right? Because I think she probably gave me that knife, actually.
So what's next for the rest of the year for ONE FC? One championship, excuse me.
Yeah, no, we got a busy year ahead. 24 events on the calendar.
How many you had so far?
4.
4?
3, 4, yeah. And we're expanding to a ton of new territories this year, several new cities in China. And so that makes it a busy year. Because my goal is to have one championship, an event every Friday of the entire year. I want MMA to be ubiquitous.
Man. I'm loving it right now. How there basically is now,
Yeah.
between the 4 big organizations. There's pretty much a fight on every weekend now, and I love it.
Yeah.
It's just now it's a challenge to actually
keep up
and be current with the fighters. And I consider myself a bit of an MMA Wikipedia, and even myself, I'm just like, wait a second, who's on this card? It's like, you're like, who are these dudes? It's like, and I mean, it's at the highest levels. Even in the UFC, you're just like, who are some of these guys? Because they're just going all over the world. So, but there's no such thing as too many fights.
Yeah.
Just that's at least as far as I'm concerned. And I always make the effort to. I'll get up in the morning. The alarm clock's on at 6:30. If the shows are broadcast in the States, I'm waking up and watching them.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, listen, Victor, I know you're the busiest guy in MMA in Asia, so thank you very much for taking the time to do this. I think everybody's going to find out a lot of things about you that they didn't, and I'm really glad we took the time to talk today.
No, I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
How can people follow you on social media?
You can follow me on Twitter if you want some breaking news, Victor1FC. That's Victor ONEFC. Or visit our website, still1fc.com.
Excellent. This was the Trash Talk MMA podcast. I'm your host, Antoine Peltier, with CEO and owner of One Championship, Mr. Victor Cui. Victor, thank you very much.
Thanks, man.
Follow me on Twitter, follow me on Facebook. Peace.
I don't want to hear it.
Thanks for listening to the Trash Talk MMA podcast. Be sure to visit trashtalkmma.com.
On my face, behind my back, they talk trash.
And don't forget to follow Antoine on Twitter at Trash Talk MMA.
That's what you said.
Let us know you're listening. Use hashtag Trash Talk MMA.